Don't forget. Okay, 1 minute.
I've got
Hope they come. If not, anyway, we'll record it. Oh, still admission. Okay, never mind. Hello. Hi, Katie. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
Feels like forever.
I know. I saw Helen. I saw Helen on a sound bath the other week.
Oh, did you? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. How's
yeah.
she?
All right. Yeah,
Oh,
busy as
it's been
always.
years.
But yeah, no. And then before I was only thinking before that it was like before Christmas, like way before.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
bless
Well,
you.
hopefully you're not going to be alone. We've only just started. We've got about 12 signed up, so there should be should more coming
Oh,
through the door. But
cool.
welcome, welcome.
And my emails off so they don't bother me. Go away.
If you want, Katie, you can pop into the chat for when everyone comes, where you're signing in from, what part of the world you're signing in from. Here we got someone else, Karen. I think this is the Karen I know. Hello, Karen. How are you? I think you're on mute if you're talking, but don't worry if you're Oh, hi.
Hello, yes, sorry.
Oh, it's
I'm
fine.
good. How are you?
I'm good. It's really nice to have you here. Do you know
Thank you,
Katie?
thank you. Pardon?
Do you know Katie? You might have been on a retreat with her before.
Oh,
Sure.
I don't know.
Not sure either.
I've just
Oh, we've got someone else.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
You're talking through my watch at the moment. I don't know what's going on. So
Hi, Anna. Welcome,
let
welcome. For those of
Hello.
you that have just
Hi.
joined, let us know where you're calling in from. We've got Katie from Chester, and I believe Karen's also from Chester. Phoebe's
Hi,
Devon.
Emma. Emma's from London.
Yes, I'm from London.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we've got about 12 people signed up today. So we'll just give it another minute or two and then we will get going because we've got some lovely things to take you through today and we just want to make sure that we can fit it all in and you are nicely on time. So we want to appreciate and respect that, but we'll just give it a few more seconds and then anyone else that joins can just jump in. I'll keep my eye on the admittance. I think Karen's re-signing back in with her. Yes, she is with her watch issue. Okay. Phoebe, can you also see the people that need admitting, or is it just on my side?
I think it's just on your side, actually.
Okay. I'll keep an eye on that then. But I think we are almost 3 minutes in. So shall we begin?
Yeah, just to let everyone know that we are recording this session for our purpose. Everything will be confidential in terms of content, but if you are happy to share in terms of if we're doing testimonials or any other writing, please say now if you're not comfortable with that, or a quick thumbs up if you are.
Thanks, Phoebe. All right, so let's kick off our session today. We'll introduce ourselves in just a moment, but yeah, love to hear where you're all from. So obviously our session is very much around goals today, and usually in the new year, we often set our goals, don't we? And then around 5 to 6 weeks in, and they tend to slip. And this is really, really natural, and we'll come on to that. But we want to help you with this, and not just in the new year, but obviously you can set goals at any time of year as well. So we want to be able to help you that by the end of this session, you'll have the tools that you can use immediately, whether that's in work or in your personal life, not only to set goals, but actually achieve them. So let me introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. So I am Nick, and I've been in the world of mindset and this whole psychology field for quite a long time, learning and development for 20 years, of which I was group head of L&D. And then after experiencing burnout, I spun off into other areas such as hypnotherapy, yoga, neuro-linguistic programming or NLP. And I've recently done my psychology master's, specializing in burnout in leadership because I've been there. And now I focus mainly on retreats. So I've ran actually around 90 retreats over the 10 years that I've set up Inspire Rewire. And my passion is to help people rest and recover when they're feeling that way, but then take it forward to be really empowered in their life and their choices. So over to you, BB.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm BB. I'm actually based in Dubai. I've been out here for about 18 years now. So my world really has always been about supporting people. And I've been doing that since about 9 years old. My school reports were always, BB would be great if she focused on herself more than she focused on other people. But it's actually my purpose. And I feel that throughout my corporate world, I was able to do that as well. And, you know, step by step, I was able to achieve my goals. I got promoted through the roles, and it kind of just took me onto my journey and my path where I am today. You know, I've continued through head of HR, through recruitment, and then setting up Coach Results to support people in their personal or professional development. And my focus really is kind of on behavioural change. And that might be why some of you are here today, in terms of my behaviors kind of limit me from achieving the goals that I want to. And often clients, you know, come to me because they want to change their patterns of behavior, or their beliefs are limiting them from the progress that they actually want to achieve. And actually working together with them on that journey is where I thrive, they thrive, because there's a win-win situation. So it's wonderful. Like Nick, I'm in the psychology field. I'm accredited coach, trainer. We've both done NLP. It's kind of how we met, actually. We've done emotional intelligence, and I do that through coaching, training, and consulting.
So as you can see, we've got quite a few years behind us in terms of corporate leadership, HR, professional coaching, and so on, and supporting leaders and teams and individuals through confidence challenges or mindset barriers, and goal setting is a big part of that as well. But what we believe most importantly, is that we've lived it too, and that brings that authentic experience through the work that we do.
Yeah. And hopefully this is going to show in the style of the way that we run our sessions, but it allows you to feel comfortable as well to share in, you know, what we hope is an authentic space for you. So I'm going to start with a question, really. What usually stops you achieving your goals? So if you feel comfortable enough, write it in the chat, or you can just write, you know, for yourself in a note. But it's just something to reflect on. What is it that stops you achieving your goal? The thing is, most people assume that it means that they lack motivation or they lack discipline.
BB, can we share the slides?
Okay. Katie has actually put probably myself mostly, and that's just really, really honest. Can you not see the slides, Nick? Did you
Not
say?
now. I could do,
Oh.
but they've gone now.
Oh.
For me anyway. I'm not sure if that's the same for anyone else, but I can't.
Can everyone see slides?
You can see why goals fail slide.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Okay, no worries. It might be my side.
So so Katie was saying, you know, sometimes it's ourselves, and you're right. And sometimes if we don't understand our patterns of behaviour, or what's stopping us, then we can't actually achieve. And sometimes it's because we think we don't have motivation or discipline. But the truth is, motivation isn't normally the problem. The reason that most goals fail is actually because of lack of poor design rather than lack of ambition. They also fail because we've got this belief that it's about willpower, but actually it's because our brain is working against the way the goal is set. So again, it's around design. So today we're actually going to look at 3 simple shifts backed by neuroscience, a couple of frameworks from the likes of Stephen Covey and James Clear that make progress just feel easier for you, so that by the end of the session, you've got a clear goal, aligned to purpose, that's actually fully in your control, and a small habit that you can implement immediately. Another thing to think of just there is, have you actually ever set a goal that you genuinely cared about and still didn't follow through? The likelihood is that it's going to be a no, because when we care about something, we generally want to actually achieve it. So hopefully today is going to be no hype, no overwhelm, just simplicity in the way that we look at how the brain works with goal setting rather than against it.
Yeah, thanks, Bibi. And for those of you that know me, I'm always sharing my own journeys and my own examples to give it kind of some context. And that's what I'll be doing in a minute. But now, this is not how the progress curve works, but it's how we think it works. We think that all we need is some motivation in the beginning. We have our goal, we visualize it, and it's this beautiful, nice curve all the way up. But we all know that that is not the case at all. And as you can see from this next one, it's actually a little bit bumpy. It's a bit more like this. But overall, as long as we keep going on some level, it is going up. There is a difference. So yes, if you look right at the beginning, the motivation is there to start, but we always tend to plateau and dip. And this is really natural. But what happens is we tend to beat ourselves up at this point and we tend to spiral. So one thing to take away here is just keep this as a visual image in your mind to know that this is true. This is what happened. What we have to do is when we have that dip, often we need to pull back on our motivation, but there's another way of doing it than just motivation. Oh, sorry, Karen. Yeah, don't worry. This is all being recorded anyway, so we can send it to you and you can catch up. So when we feel it's like this, we sometimes think, why bother? We sometimes think, if I keep dropping and falling back, is there any point? And that's what Bibi was saying about tying a real meaning to this. So I want to give you an example. So at the end of last year, I took some time out and I stepped back and I had a scan and was thinking about what was working both professionally and personally and what wasn't. And I realized I wanted to exercise more. And I think this is a real common goal for a lot of people. But setting goals for, doing something 3 to 4 times a week to exercise or attend a class was really difficult for me because and it's different reasons for everybody, but for me, having a child, most of your evening is tied up with books and bed, and by the time that's done, you're just exhausted, and then you self-deprecate that you've not done it again. And morning times are go, 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 daytimes are for work, and it just feels like, well, I don't even know. But from experience, I know that it really impacts me positively when I do. So I just kind of racking my brain and thinking, how can I set some goals that really work for me and get my blood moving? Because I know that it impacts me positively, professionally and personally. So what I did was I decided to do something that felt manageable, but not pressurizing. I think the pressure I was giving myself was what was putting me off in the first place, because sometimes the little things we think are not enough. So we always set these huge goals and then we either don't start them because they just feel overwhelming, or we start them and when we have the drop, it just feels way too big to get back on track. So I decided to call it something different completely in the first place. I called it moving my body. I just want to move my body every day. And it was a non-negotiable that I set up. And I did start to fall off the wagon about 5 or 6 weeks in, like naturally, which I'll come to. But that word sounded different to me. It sounded more supportive than pressurizing. And it could have been anything. It could have been walking to the shop. It could have been doing 10 squats quickly. It could have been 10 minutes Pilates online. It was easy for me to do and it wasn't boring because I mixed it up and it was like, okay, well, what shall I do today? It could have been just jumping around the room with my daughter. To me, it was tick, done. I didn't overanalyze or judge myself on how long I did it. I did 15 minutes in the gym. I didn't care that I walked in and walked out after 15 minutes. It was just tick, done. So I was hitting these little dopamine goals every day. And when I did naturally plateau and find it boring because we've been saying motivation is not enough, it was so easy for me to get back on track because it was so easy to get going in the first place because it wasn't so big. And I kept this image in my mind and I was like, this is normal. And I was able to then continue back up on track. It was later that I started to make it more specific, which we'll come to, and a little bit more challenging. But it was the habit that I needed to get going in the first place to build my self-esteem and prove that I actually can stick to something.
So Nick, I love that, because what really sticks is the fact that you knew your end goal was exercise. You reframed it because exercise just didn't give you that kind of volition or desire. You reframed it to movement. You wanted the blood flow. So again, your brain has now engaged in something that actually means something to you. And then what you did was you reframed it in terms of small steps, of chunking it down. And the thing is, the brain loves small wins. And so by you doing that, as you said, when you came to a bit of a plateau or a dip, it was easy to come back up again because your brain thought, oh, I know that a small win is really easy to achieve. So our brain is amazing, everyone. It works, constantly for us, and it believes it's always doing the right things for us. I mean, we receive millions of pieces of information every single minute of the day. And what it does for us is it deletes what it believes to be unimportant so that it makes our storage retrieval a lot easier. It distorts information so that it fits our mental model and our how we view the world, our perspective, and that's so that we can understand easier. And then it also generalizes things, so we've got a pool of understanding to again make things easier for us. So if you noticed the language that I was just using there, the brain works for us to make things easier. It enjoys easiness, so it avoids uncertainty. So if you don't have a goal that's specific, or you don't know where you're going with that goal, it's going to probably go, do I actually want to do this? It will avoid overload. If the goal just seems too big, what do you mean you want me to exercise 6 times a day? We don't, or 6 times a week. We don't do it once at the moment. It will get overwhelmed. It will just be too much to achieve. And so therefore that's where you chunk it down. So what it avoids as well is effort with no clear reward. So unless you've got it tied to that purposeful, meaningful goal at the end, it's going to say, well, okay, I can go to the gym 6 times a week, but what's in it for me or you? So you've just got to remember that the brain doesn't like effort. It likes to be able to support you, but it needs to see clarity, it needs to see control, and it needs those small wins as well. So if a goal feels vague, it feels too big, the brain's just going to delay or avoid it. So Katie, where you said it's you that possibly stops yourself, this is why there's that internal conflict of you saying you want something, but the brain going, that's just too difficult to achieve. So when we reframe it, like Nick did with calling it movement rather than exercise, it will automatically go, oh, okay, I can do that. So it's not that we need more discipline. We don't need to be harder on ourselves. We don't need to hear that inner voice. We just need to understand how to design the goal in a better way. We need it to be meaningful, and we need to make it sure that, the brain is working with us, not fighting against us.
Yeah. Yeah. And, once I started, got that habit going through being kind to myself, it was then later that I could actually say, right, what do you really want to get out of this then? So let's look at the type of things you do want to be doing and how often, because it didn't feel as fearful, and it felt more achievable. And then I could get a little bit more specific later on.
And this table kind of clarifies what you did, really. So, you provided it with clarity. There was meaning to what you were doing. There was those small bits of progress, and the brain then engaged. So when you had that vague goal of, I just want to exercise more, you struggled with, well, what does that actually mean? There were too many steps. You were relying on your motivation to actually go to the gym or do that exercise, and so therefore it shuts down. So the real reason that our goals kind of fade after that 6 weeks process is they're not really meaningful to us, or they don't mean, or we haven't got that clarity around it. They're not necessarily within our control, and they rely on willpower rather than that design of making it easy for us.
Yeah. And just coming back to what you said there about meaning, and I gave a little bit around my meaning, but it's also deeper than that in terms of why I want to do what I want to do. Why is it important to me? And so beyond just wanting to feel better, I also thought about the future, and I thought, okay, well, for example, I decided to have Isla later in life, and if she chooses to have children in the future and she has them later in life, then I'm going to be an 80-year-old granny. And that makes me think, right, at that point, I want to be hands-on. I want to be able to help her. I want to be strong, mind and body. So when you get even deeper into your why and into your meaning, it can add an extra layer of support on your journey.
Grandma Nick. Okay, so let's look at 3 simple shifts for success.
All right, let's start with clarity. So I've spoken a little bit about this already, so it's more of a summary really, but I want to drop the seed in for you to think about what is it that you want to achieve. Actually start to think about what is that goal and think about your why, your purpose beyond just the goal, because it really does need to align. Otherwise, why are we doing it? And, for clarity and focus, it's really good to write things down. So we invite you to also pop it in the chat in a moment when we ask you to do this, if you feel comfortable to. But writing it down gives that kind of clarity. It gives that accountability to yourself. Doesn't have to be publicly, but sometimes even sharing it with others can help. It depends how you work as an individual. Sometimes that feels too pressurizing for people. We've all heard probably of SMART goals, but if not, it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable. Hopefully you're thinking back to my example and thinking, yeah, it's achievable, it's relevant, it's time bound. And the other thing about writing things down and doing this is that it takes a lot of decision fatigue out of your brain as well. So it helps to reduce that mental load. And that's why later I got a bit more specific with, okay, now you've got the pattern going, what exactly are we doing? Because then I can just do a plan and simply turn up.
Yeah, and there are so many studies that show that writing down your goals achieve more. There's that one famous one with Harvard, whether it's an urban myth or not, but they looked at a whole graduating class. 85% of them had sort of no specific goals. About 13% had goals, but only 3% actually wrote them down. And they went back about a decade later and they checked all, that graduating class, and that 3% who'd written the goals down were earning 10 times more than the rest of the 97%. It might be an urban myth, but there is secondary resource and research that supports to say that writing your goals improves the likelihood of achievement by 42%. So guess what? We're going to invite you to write it down.
Yeah, and Phoebe, I think there's some truth in it, because whenever I've got my big magic whiteboards out on the wall and started to look at like, what do I want in 3 years, in 2 years, in 1 year, and so on, not saying all of the time, but a lot of the time I look back and I think, you know what, that I actually did that. So I do think there's something in it. All right. So this is your chance to, again, we invite you to share in the chat, but you can also just write it down in your notebook. You also might not be ready right now to think about what this might be. That's fine. You can return to this anytime. But what is it that you're working on at the moment? And how is it meaningful to you? Can you align that to something underneath it? And we'll just give you a moment to think about this, but it's definitely something that you want to ponder on, take it away and just give it a little bit of thought.
It's just, we've put that quote in: a goal that lives only in your head competes with everything else. And it's just so true, because when we have those things whirring around in our head,
it's a bit like affirmations as well, Bibi. It's just made me realize as well, like affirmations can work quite well if you're thinking about them, but if you write it down, and even more if you say it out loud, then it really kind of cements it.
And it's accountability as well. Yeah, but it gets it out of the head, so that energy isn't being used absorbing, where is that piece of information. So hopefully now you've got your goal, you've got your understanding of what the meaning is, and so therefore you can move forward with it, and hopefully it's kind of ignited a little bit of excitement towards it. So feel free to share it in the chat, but if not, just have it with you, because we do want this to be an actionable session for you. The second area after clarity, oh, someone's shared. Let's have a look.
Thank you, Kate.
Katie, my goal is to get healthy. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the same. Yeah, thank you. We've got a couple actually. So Katie says, my goal is to get healthy and lose weight because I want to feel better and be around for my family longer. Absolutely. I love that. And so to build multiple income streams, a reason being to future-proof my income. Yes, relate to both of those. Thank you so much for
That's so meaningful because, you know, family is a higher value and financial security is a higher value. So we can automatically see that these are goals, so long as we've got the right structure and system that actually you will keep maintaining or moving towards. So thank you very much for sharing that. That's really, really generous of you and honest of you. So the second area is around control. And this is about, I don't know if any of you have heard of Stephen Covey. He's the author of 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. One of his, coined phrases is begin with the end in mind. And that's what we've done with the clarity of the goal. What is it that we want to achieve? What's the purpose? So if a goal isn't aligned with what matters, he says it's just not going to last. He also created this framework, the Circle of Influence tool. So what he says, if a goal isn't within your control, it's going to create stress within the brain and therefore avoidance. Okay, so what do we mean by control? It means that we have initiated it. It's driven by us. It's driven by our wants. And it's easy because it's something that we can actually navigate and actually in control. Otherwise, if you haven't got whole control, it means that you're spending a lot of energy and time. So it's not easy for the brain to then influence people to come into your circle of control. So if we look at the actual diagram, the center is what you have direct control over. The middle ring is the circle of influence where you have some control, but it's more about influence to get it into that control. And the outer ring is the circle of concern where we neither have direct input or much influence. Covey's suggestion was that by being proactive with the things that we can control, we can actually influence more and be more comfortable in the things that we can achieve. And so if we then try to broaden out the circle of control, the things that we have impact on, it's easier for our brain and therefore easier to achieve. And then that domino effect of easier on the brain, easier to achieve, I've got more control. So what happens is that circle of control gets bigger, the influence and the concern gets smaller. And the more control we have, the more that we want to move forward. And we've got that whole pattern of, well, I can achieve this. I'm in control of it. I can achieve it. And you just go forward and there's progress in your goal setting. So when you are setting those goals, ask yourself, why does this goal matter to you? So the clarity, but what part of this is actually in my control? And the reason why it works is because firstly, meaningful goals activate the prefrontal cortex. So then you start focus and planning. But the reverse of control, so lack of control, activates threat responses. So when you've got the control, you're not avoiding, you're actually moving forward.
Nice. Okay, let's move into the last one here. So we've talked a lot about the whole willpower versus having the habits going. And the other theories we want to just touch on is James Clear, and he talks about why habits and systems beat the willpower. Motivation is unreliable, as we've said. It's definitely going to wane, even with the simplest and easiest goals that you're putting in place, like me, 5 to 6 weeks in, classic, started to get bored of that. So we need the systems to be easy for us to do it. And he argues that people often underestimate systems, but overestimate the motivation involved in goal setting. And I think that's coming out quite clear now. And willpower is also limited. So when you're getting into your daily routine and that starts to wane and the day-to-day stresses and fatigue and distractions come in, it drains willpower very, very quickly. So that's why it needs to be very easy, very manageable, very short, to convince your brain and your body that this is actually doable and that it's easy, and to build, like I was mentioning before. So instead of trying to feel motivated, it's about building the routines that support when we know that's going to wane. So yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, so many of our clients, they do say, I just haven't got the motivation. And we say to them, don't have motivation, create the system, because then that's how the habit will form.
Yeah. And maybe we can just jump straight into the final summary just to keep us to time, BB, because we've got 2 bits just to go through before we close.
Absolutely. So just to summarize, I guess it's a 3-step summary for you. Get clear on your goal, start with the end in mind, make it meaningful, aligned to your values, because, the brain loves purpose, but write it down.
Right. And the control, make it self-initiated, activating the prefrontal cortex to inspire the planning side of it, not just the motivation, and chunking it down like I did.
And then finally, create the habit, create the system first, because the brain loves the patterns, set the right environment for success, and then make the behavior easier to do. So, if you're going to the gym, set out your gym gear the night before. When you wake up, you see it. That's kind of the system that you want. Then repeat it and it will become habitualized. So ultimately, you will succeed.
And so I can't believe how fast that went today. But if you do want to keep posted on any of our future webinars or any of our in-person events, just QR that. If you're not familiar with QR, just drop me or BB a message and we'll send you the link. We're not going to bombard you with anything. It's just so we know if you are interested, we'll send you whatever event is coming up. If you do have any questions and you want to stick around, please feel free. If not, thank you. Thank you for being here and being interactive with us. It really helps us to understand where you're at as well.
And we hope that what we've offered today really does give an insight into, success can happen with, 3 simple steps. It's just about planning, it's about structure and making sure that things are meaningful for you. As Nick said, do reach out to us, connect with us on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, please just let us know now in the chat or just stay on and we will be here for you.
With that, I'm going to press stop on the recording just in case you have anything and you want to keep that conversation.